Her lips trembled against mine, soft, wet, and demanding. The hotel room was dimly lit, curtains drawn against the night outside, leaving just the two of us drowning in each other. Her fingers ran across my chest, nails scraping lightly, sending sparks racing down my spine. I could feel her heartbeat through her blouse, quick and desperate, matching mine. I remember my hand slowly sliding lower, tugging at the hem of her skirt, her breath hitching as if she wasn't sure whether to stop me or beg me to go further. That was the moment, right there, that everything in me wanted to surrender to her ocean. Not the market charts, not the numbers, not the profits that once kept me awake at night. Just her. But before I tell you how I got lost in that fire, before I reveal how my craving for profit in trading with her turned into something elusive, let me ask you for something. If you're listening to me right now, if you're feeling the heat in my words, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear a story like this. Alright, now let me take you back to where it all started. I wasn't supposed to fall for her. Not in the beginning. Back then, all I wanted was profit, clean and simple. I met her in a trading forum online, one of those buzzing spaces where strangers exchange hot stock tips and late-night predictions about whether Tesla will fly or crypto will crash. Her username caught my eye first, sharp and playful, almost teasing. I noticed how her comments always sounded more thoughtful, more grounded, compared to the nonsense most people posted. So I messaged her. At first, it was purely business, charts, predictions, strategies. She was smart, sharp as a blade, and yet, there was something soft in the way she typed her words. Something warm. I could almost hear her voice in the way she said things like, "Don't chase the market, let it come to you." Funny how I didn't listen to that advice with her. Our chats moved from trading apps to text messages. Then from texts to calls. Midnight calls. The kind where you start off talking about Bitcoin's resistance levels and end up laughing about childhood memories, favorite songs, and the kind of dreams you never tell anyone else. I didn't even notice when the business edge of our conversations blurred into something more personal. She didn't just become my trading partner, she became the one I craved to hear every night before I closed my eyes. The first time we met in person was at a small coffee shop in Manhattan. I was nervous, more than I cared to admit. She walked in wearing this deep green dress, not too flashy, but the kind that clung just enough to hint at what lay beneath. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, and when she smiled at me across the table, I swear the market inside me crashed instantly. We ordered coffee, but truth be told, I couldn't taste a thing. All I could focus on was how her lips curved around her words, how her fingers traced the edge of her cup, how her eyes held mine like she was testing me, daring me to look away. We talked numbers, sure, but beneath the numbers was something else, something electric. Every glance, every smile, felt like a trade I wasn't supposed to make but couldn't resist. When we finally stepped out into the street, the night air cool against the warmth she had stirred in me, she leaned in and whispered, "You're different." I didn't expect this. Neither did I. From that night, everything changed. We began meeting more often, sometimes under the pretext of going over trading strategies. But trading was just our excuse. It was the safe cover for the dangerous game we were playing. Dinners turned into long walks turned into stolen kisses, and stolen kisses turned into nights where we couldn't let go of each other. I remember one evening at her office. She had stayed late, and I dropped by to bring her food. The office was quiet, lights dimmed, no one else around. She was tired, her hair pulled up, glasses still perched on her nose, but to me she had never looked more beautiful. I set the food down, but she didn't care. She pulled me close, her lips finding mine in a kiss that stole my breath. I pressed her against the desk, papers scattering as her body arched into mine. That was the first night we crossed the line. That was the night I stopped pretending I wanted her just as a business partner. But here's the truth I didn't realize back then, just like trading, every gain comes with a hidden risk. With her, the risk wasn't just her marriage, or the secrecy, or the guilt. The real risk was how much of myself I was pouring into her, how much I needed her attention, her touch, her words, as if without her, I'd go bankrupt inside. And though I couldn't see it then, I was already on the losing side of the trade. That was just the beginning. I'll take you deeper into how it all unfolded. The nights, the passions, the trades we made with our hearts instead of stocks. But before we move into that, let me remind you once more, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because what came after that first spark with her wasn't just romance. It was a firestorm that left me burned, empty, and filled with regrets. I used to believe numbers never lied. Charts, candles, price actions, they might be unpredictable, but at least they were honest. They never pretended to be something else. People, on the other hand, always wore masks. But with her, I couldn't tell if she was my most honest trade, or my biggest illusion. The more we talked, the more my craving for profit shifted. I stopped checking the market as often. My phone buzzed with her texts, not stock alerts. My morning started with, "Good morning, trader," and my nights ended with, "Sleep well, don't dream without me." And I didn't want to. We'd talk about everything, her frustrations with her husband, who she said never listened to her anymore. How he was always too busy, too distracted, too cold. I'd sit there, phone pressed to my ear, listening, while she poured out secrets she had never told anyone. And when her voice cracked, when she whispered, "I just feel invisible," I'd whisper back, "Not to me. You'll never be invisible to me." That was the first lie I told myself, that I was giving her comfort out of kindness. In truth, I was feeding my own hunger. One Friday evening, she invited me over to her place. Not her house, she could never risk that, but a rented apartment she used sometimes when she said she needed space. I still remember walking in. The lights were dim, soft jazz playing in the background, the smell of vanilla candles filling the air. She opened the door barefoot, wearing a loose silk robe that barely clung to her body. "I thought we could relax here instead of a noisy bar," she said, her smile nervous, like even she wasn't sure what line she was crossing. I didn't hesitate. The robe slipped from her shoulder as she poured wine into 2 glasses, her movements slow, deliberate, as though she was testing if I'd watch her. And God, I did. Every second. We sat close, sipping wine, laughing at nothing, pretending to care about the music. But the air was thick with something else, something far more dangerous than red candles on a stock chart. When her hand brushed against mine, neither of us pulled away. The kiss was inevitable. Slow at first, tentative, like a first trade you're unsure about. Then deeper, hungrier, as if both of us had been waiting for that moment far longer than we admitted. Her body melted into mine, her skin hot, her breath shaky. I remember her whispering, "Don't stop," and I didn't. Not that night. We made love like we were both drowning and the other was the only air left. Every touch was fire, every moan a confession, every second a loss of control. The days after that blurred. We began stealing time wherever we could. Lunch breaks that turned into hours in hotel rooms. Late night calls that ended with us touching ourselves on opposite ends of the phone. Trips that were supposed to be about market research, but really were about locking the door and losing ourselves in each other. She'd send me pictures, nothing too obvious, not thing that could get her caught. A glimpse of her bare shoulder, a shot of her legs crossed under a desk, a mirror selfie in lingerie that made my heart race. And I'd reply with words that fed her, that made her feel wanted, alive, desired in ways she hadn't felt in years. The truth? She had become my addiction. Not stocks, not profit margins, not the thrill of the trade. Her. One night, in the middle of our mess, she whispered something that stuck with me. "You know, this is risky. But with you, I feel like I'm finally winning something." I laughed, half naked, lying beside her, my hand tracing circles on her thigh. "We're both winning," I told her. But even then, a part of me knew, every winning trade comes with a risk. And the higher the profit, the deeper the fall when it slips away. But before I go further, let me pause here and remind you, if you're still with me in this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Stories like this, raw, real, filled with passion and regret, deserve to be heard, and your support makes sure they are. Alright, let's get back to it. The cracks began small. It started when she began canceling plans last minute. Her texts grew shorter, her voice over the phone distracted. She'd still say she wanted me, but her words carried hesitation, as though something was pulling her back. One afternoon, after a cancelled lunch, I confronted her. "Are you pulling away from me?" I asked. She sighed, long and heavy. "No. I'm just scared. You know my situation. My husband, my kids. If this ever comes out." "It won't," I cut her off, my voice firmer than I felt. "No one will know. This is ours. Just ours." She nodded, but her eyes told another story. Fear. Conflict. Regret creeping in where passion once ruled. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe we could keep trading moments of stolen intimacy without paying the cost. But the truth? Every trade has its stop-loss. And ours was approaching fast. That was when I realized, my craving for profit with her wasn't just elusive. It was impossible. Because what I really wanted wasn't her body. It was her soul. And that was never mine to take. Used to think silence was harmless. Just the absence of words. But when it came from her, silence screamed louder than any confession. It started subtle. A delayed reply here, a missed call there. She'd say, "Sorry, busy at home," or "Work drained me today." Excuses that sounded harmless, but I could feel them carving space between us. Our stolen afternoons grew rare. The apartment where passion once lit every corner now sat empty more often than not. I'd pass by, remembering her robe slipping from her shoulder, remembering her voice whispering, "Don't stop." And the emptiness mocked me. I remember one night vividly. I was lying in bed, phone in hand, staring at our chat. The little, typing, bubble would appear, then vanish. Appear again, vanish again. Finally, just silence. Hours later, a short message came through. "Sorry, fell asleep next to him." Her husband. I stared at the words, my chest tightening. I knew she had a life outside of me. I knew she belonged to someone else. But it had never felt so real, so invasive, until that moment. It was like watching profit slip from your trade, not because the market turned, but because you stayed in too long. But then, just when I thought she was gone, she'd pull me back. She'd call late at night, her voice trembling, whispering, "I miss you so much. I can't stop thinking about you." And I'd fall all over again. Her tears became my weakness. Her confessions my chain. She'd tell me her husband was colder than ever, that she felt like a ghost in her own home. And when she said, "With you, I feel alive again," I believed her. I shouldn't have. But I did. Every damn time. There was one afternoon where I thought maybe things were turning back in our favor. She invited me out, not to the apartment, not to a hotel, but just for a simple coffee. We sat across from each other, hands brushing under the table, pretending to just be friends in the eyes of strangers. But her eyes betrayed her. They were glassy, heavy, carrying something she couldn't put into words. "You ever wish life was simpler?" she asked me, staring into her cup. "All the time," I said, forcing a smile. "But then I wouldn't have met you." She looked up at me, her lip trembling just enough to give her away. For a second, I thought she was going to say something big, something final. But instead, she just whispered, "Don't make this harder for me." And my heart sank, because I knew I was losing her. The pull-push became unbearable. One day, she'd flood me with messages, photos, promises. The next, she'd vanish, leaving me stranded in my own thoughts. I became addicted to the waiting. Addicted to the uncertainty. It wasn't passion anymore, it was torment. The bed that once smelled of her perfume now smelled of loneliness. The charts on my laptop went unchecked, my trades collapsing because I couldn't focus. She had become my market, my profit, my risk. And worse, she was slipping away. But before I take you deeper into how this all broke me, let me pause right here. If you're caught in the intensity of this story, don't forget to like this video, share it, and hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps stories like this alive, stories people are too afraid to tell but desperately need to hear. Alright. Let's continue. The breaking point came with a single text. We need to slow down. 2 words that ended me, slow down. I stared at the screen, shaking, heart racing. I typed back, deleted, typed again. My reply finally came out raw. So you're leaving me? Her answer wasn't immediate. It came hours later. I don't want to. But if I lose everything because of this, I don't know if I can survive it. I dropped my phone, pressing my hands against my face. That was when it hit me, I had been craving profit in a trade that was never mine to win. She wasn't a stock. She wasn't an asset. She was a person tied to a life I could never touch without bleeding. But by then, it was already too late. Because I wasn't just craving her anymore. I was in love. And love, when it's stolen, is the most elusive profit of all. I once thought desire was like trading, calculated, timed, something you could control if you just studied it long enough. But with her, there were no charts, no signals, no exit plan. Just raw craving, pulling me deeper even as I knew I was drowning. Her absence was heavier than her presence. When she wasn't around, everything reminded me of her. The hum of the fridge at night sounded like her laugh. The scent of coffee in the morning made me think of her messy hair spilling over a diner table. Even silence had her name written all over it. And yet, when she came close again, she was never fully mine. One evening, she called me, voice low, hurried. Can you come over? I need you. Those 4 words made me throw everything aside. I didn't think about the risk, didn't think about the lies we'd have to spin. I just grabbed my keys and drove, like a man chasing oxygen after being held underwater too long. When she opened the door, I could tell she had been crying. Her makeup was smudged, her robe loosely tied, her bare feet shifting nervously on the floor. He's been distant all week, she whispered. It feels like I don't even exist to him anymore. And then she collapsed into my arms. I should have comforted her gently, told her she deserved more, told her she didn't have to keep doing this. But instead, I kissed her like I was starving, because in truth, I was. We stumbled to the couch, every touch desperate, every kiss like a confession we couldn't say out loud. Her tears mixed with our passion, and for that brief moment, it felt like she was truly mine. But the truth is, she never was. Later, as she lay on my chest, tracing circles on my skin, she whispered something that cut me deeper than silence ever could. Sometimes I wish you had met me before him. I froze, staring at the ceiling. Those words weren't just longing. They were regret wrapped in fantasy. And I realized, I was her escape, not her destination. The next morning, she left without warning. No kiss. No promises. Just silence and a faint smell of her perfume left behind. Her vanishing act became a pattern. She'd show up, ignite me, then disappear into the arms of her reality. And every time, I swore I wouldn't let it break me. Yet every time, it did. I was trading with emotions I couldn't afford. Weeks blurred. My phone became my lifeline. Every vibration, every notification, I jumped at it like a gambler waiting for his number to be called. Most times, it wasn't her. Sometimes it was, but the messages were shorter now. Colder. One night, I broke. I texted her. Tell me the truth. Do you still want this? Do you still want me? Minutes passed. Hours. Then finally, her reply came. I don't know what I want anymore. That sentence destroyed me. Not because it was rejection, but because it was indecision. She wasn't leaving me. She wasn't staying either. She was keeping me in limbo, and I let her. And here's where I pause. Pause again. If this story is pulling you in, if you've ever craved something you shouldn't, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who'll feel it, and hit that subscribe button. Stories like this live because of you. Now, back to it. I tried to distract myself. I went out more, threw myself back into trading, tried to find profit where I could. But nothing filled the gap she left. Charts looked empty. Bars felt louder. Nights felt longer. Then, out of nowhere, she returned, like she always did. She showed up at my door, trembling, eyes red from crying. He accused me of cheating, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't admit anything, but he knows something is wrong. I pulled her inside, heart racing. My worst fear wasn't that she'd leave me, it was that she'd be caught. That our secret world would collapse under the weight of reality. But instead of stopping, we fell into each other again. Our kisses were more frantic this time, our bodies colliding like it could be the last time. And maybe, deep down, we both knew it was. Because passion born in shadows doesn't survive in light. And the light was getting closer. There comes a point when even desire feels heavy. When the very thing you crave becomes the weight that drags you under. That's what happened to me. She didn't call for weeks. At first, I thought maybe her husband had found out, maybe the game was over, maybe the silence was punishment for what we had done. But the truth was worse, she was simply moving on. The last time she came to me, her touch was colder, her kisses shorter, her words more distant. She didn't look at me like she used to. She looked through me, like I was a chapter in her story she was trying to finish quietly. And I was still writing her name on every page of mine. I remember the last night we spent together like it's etched into my skin. She arrived without warning, wearing a gray coat over her dress. It was raining, her hair damp, her lips trembling, not from cold, but from nerves. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. Our bodies knew the script too well by now. But somewhere in the middle of that night, I felt it, the difference. Her hands didn't linger. Her eyes didn't close the way they used to. And when it was over, she didn't curl into me. She sat up, fixed her dress, and stared at the window like she was waiting for morning to save her. We can't keep doing this, she whispered. I wanted to protest, to beg, to remind her of every kiss, every touch, every confession whispered in the dark. But the words caught in my throat, because deep down, I knew she was right. We weren't building love. We were trading moments. And in every trade, one person loses more than the other. This time, it was me. The next day, she blocked me. No texts. No calls. No late-night whispers. Just silence. And that silence was louder than any argument could ever be. I started spiraling. Every place reminded me of her. The diner where we first laughed over cheap coffee. The hotel room that smelled like sin and perfume. Even the grocery aisle where she once stood beside me, joking about which wine to pick. I tried to drown her ghost in new women, in trading wins, in late-night drives with the radio blasting. But nothing worked. Desire doesn't just leave quietly. It lingers, it claws, it laughs at you when you try to erase it. Weeks turned to months. And one day, by pure accident, I saw her again. She was at a cafe, sitting across from her husband. She looked happy. Or at least she wore the mask of happiness well. Her laughter rang out like nothing had ever happened between us. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and chose to ignore me. Either way, that was the moment I realized something brutal. I had been a shadow in her life. An escape, a distraction, a secret thrill. But not her forever. Never her forever. And all that craving, all that risk, all that passion, it became nothing more than regret. So here I am, telling you this story. Not because I want sympathy, not because I want to be remembered as the man who almost stole another man.
Man's wife. But because sometimes, we chase things that glitter, thinking they're gold, when in truth, they're glass, waiting to cut us open. Before I end this, let me say this: if you stayed with me through this confession, through this storm of lust and loss, then do me one favor. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. Because stories like this, the raw, unfiltered truths of what passion can do to a man, they need ears like yours. I once thought I was profiting in her oceans. That I was winning in the trade of love and lust. But in the end, I was only chasing an illusion. And illusions don't pay, they only leave you empty.